Alright, so today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to tell a story today. We're going to watch Kevin run as he's spitting this wood out. I'll stack it over out of his way. 2 years ago, we bought the 635, and when we bought it, before we bought it, we actually tested a 615 for Tiger Cat, and I was amazed at what the machine would do. It was wild. And we had a guy working for us that was driving a truck. His name is Jackson, and Jackson McCool. And I put Jackson had been in logging business prior to working for us, but had been out, he had gotten out of logging and all that, so he was driving a truck for us and was a good driver and everything. Well, I got him in that 615 with me one day, showing what it would do, and of course he was amazed just like I was. So we ended up buying the 635. So when we got it, I told Dad we needed somebody good to run it. I told Dad, I said I'm gonna see if Jackson wants to run that machine. Dad said, all right. He said, that'll work. I said, I want to, if Jackson will run it, I want to get him out of the truck and get him in the woods with us. And part of the reason for that too was because I had noticed the Kevin and Jackson kind of had this special relationship, and I could see that and I could sense that, and I thought, you know, if Jackson can come on and run that 635 for us, and him and Kevin are clicking like they are, you know, this could be really good. So we got the 635, and I talked to Jackson. I said, you want to run that machine? He said, yeah, I think I will. So he got on that machine, and him and Kevin's relationship just got even better and better and better. I mean, it was like a perfect match. Jackson could run that machine. He could make that machine do things. I mean, he knew, he followed along through the day. He knew what I was going to be loading as the day went on. He could foresee things, you know, and be thinking about them. I mean, like, we're getting toward the end of the day, and he knew I was going to load some hardwood pulpwood. He'd be looking for hardwood pulpwood pulls, you know, and bringing them into Kevin. He took care of Kevin, man. Oh my goodness, he did an outstanding job for us with Kevin. I mean, he was just all the time ahead, thinking, no slacker or anything like that. Well, here's where the story gets interesting, and I hope that maybe some of y'all can learn from this, and y'all may have had this same situation happen before. And if you hadn't ever had this situation happen before, maybe this video will help you to be prepared for what happened to us. But anyhow, I had been off work for 8 weeks because I had to have some surgery, and this was in the fall of 2013. I came back to work just before Thanksgiving, about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and my dad had been running the loader for me and everything. Well, I got back to work. It was a week before Thanksgiving on a Wednesday, and we had just moved loading decks, and we had moved about almost a half a mile from where we was set up at. We moved from one side of the track to the other side of the track, and right after lunch, Jackson started complaining about he wasn't feeling good, and you know, and he thought what he ate just didn't sit well with him or anything like that. Well, it rocked on about mid-afternoon. He got on the radio and he told Kevin and us, he said, I'm gonna ride a service truck and get me some Gatorade. I said, all right, that'll work, man. Well, he went up there, got his Gatorade, come back, said, I think I'm feeling a little bit better, you know, and he's running on. And we had done piled up. We'd already had about 20 more loads piled up at the deck, and all I could see was Kevin from where I was sitting because the pile was so high. Well, I heard Kevin key up the radio and say, Jackson, are you okay? Well, I spun real quick to kind of focus on Kevin. Well, as I was spinning my loader around, I looked over to way over to my right, and I could see the 635 over there, and he had a drag of wood behind him, and I could see Jackson kind of slumped over. I immediately just grabbed the mic. I yelled at Kevin on the radio. I said, get over there. I said, get to him. I said, he's having a heart attack, man. I mean, I knew it. I could see Jackson. I've never seen anybody have a heart attack or anything, but I mean, I sensed that when I could see what he looked like and everything. And I flew out of my loader and just immediately ran down the road, just running. And keep in mind, I had just had some pretty major surgery. Ran all the way to get my truck. I ran all the way to my truck. By the time I come back, Derek had came to the deck in the 830, and Tommy, our other skidder driver, was there too. They were dragging Jackson out of the 635, and I drove into the cutover in my truck, and they had him propped up against the tire of the 635, and so I said, "You okay?" He was a little bit coherent and all that stuff like that. Well, we were working in the middle of nowhere, and I'm always aware of where the hospitals are, and I've had to call an ambulance before and get them in the woods to pick somebody up, and that's a whole nother story. But when you're dealing with an ambulance and 911, it's really tough when you don't have a physical address to deal with. It's hard to explain to those guys where you're at, because they work off of a physical address. So when you tell them, well, I'm on such and such road about right here, it throws them in a kilter. And I've dealt with that before, so my mind, it's like a pitcher in a Major League Baseball game standing at the plate, and that pitch is coming at 90-something miles an hour. When that pitcher releases it, the batter only has just a split second to make a decision of where that ball is going to end up at when it crosses his body, and where he needs to put his bat at to hit that ball. That's what I was doing. I was having to make some very critical decisions and trying to think, what do I need to do? Where do I need to get him to? We were too far. Columbus was the best place to get him to, but we were too far from Columbus. I didn't want to have to fool with meeting the ambulance, so we were about 17 or 18 miles from Amory, but Amory's not that big a hospital. So I opted, what I felt in my mind the best thing to do was to get him to Amory and then go from there. So we throwed him in my truck, and I left out. And then my goal was when I got on the highway, I was going to call 911 and tell them what was going on and all that stuff. And so Jackson was kind of going in and out on me and all that stuff like that, and I actually thought he had done died on me at one point. As soon as I got on Highway 278 heading toward Amory, I called 911. I got on the phone with the 911 operator, and I told her what was going on. I told her where I was, what I was driving, and she said, I said, what do y'all want to do? She said, I'm notifying the local authorities now. They know you're coming. You just keep doing what you're doing. I was telling her what roads I was going by and stuff like that. She said, you can get to the hospital as quick as we can get somebody to you. So you just keep doing what you do. And she said, you know, we got people trying to get to the highway now to meet up with you, to escort you. And I said, okay, that'll work. So I stayed on the phone with her for a little bit, and I was about a mile or so from the hospital at that point in time, and there's a red light there. There's a Wendy's and a McDonald's on each corner right there. And old Jackson was telling me I was doing about as much as my truck would do. I mean, I've got a diesel Dodge, and man, I'm tacked out at about 90 miles an hour. And Jackson would come to every now and then. He'd ask me, he said, man, can you go any faster? He said, Tim, I'm hurting. I said, Jackson, I'm doing all I can do. Well, I get to that red light. The red light is red, and you know, I just hang me a left, go through the freaking Wendy's parking lot, and the hospital sitting behind the Wendy's right there, jump the curb and over into the parking lot I go. Well, I pull up the emergency room. Of course, they know I'm coming. I run in there, and they come flying out. We get Jackson loaded onto a stretcher and get him in there. And so I'm talking to Jackson's wife and all that stuff, telling her what's going on. Well, they come out and they tell me, they said, we're taking him to Columbus. And I was like, all right, that'll work. So I called Jackson's wife, said, you know, they're en route to Amory. They're gonna take him to Columbus now. So they load him into an ambulance and haul Bud to Columbus with him. Well, of course, I'm scared to death. Wondering if what I have done, you know, is going to get Jackson by, if he's going to make it or not. Because I mean, he is in bad shape. So I can't keep up with the ambulance. The ambulance is gone. So I get to Columbus, and of course they've already got him in there, getting him fixed up, and there's a doctor there named Dr. Chain, and they had already sent the info from Jackson to Columbus. They had everything that they needed. They immediately rushed him in there and put a stent in. He had one of his main arteries coming off his heart. I walked in there to the waiting room where Jackson's wife was and everybody was, and Dr. Chain come out, and he had two print-offs on a piece of paper, and one was before the stent and then the other one was after the stent, and there was no flow. It was 100% blocked, and then after the stent you could see the blood flow where it was going from his heart there. And old Dr. Stennis said, he said, you know, he said, I don't know who did what, but he said those first 20 minutes of something like that, of this, is the most critical. He said, whoever or whatever happened, they did the right things, you know, to make sure that Jackson would be okay. And so the moral of this video is you know, you've got to be ready for anything. And I always try to prepare myself for anything. And you always got to know, like, if you're working in this area or that area, where's the, you know, where am I at? What roads am I on? Where's the nearest medical facility, you know, hospital, clinic, stuff like that, to get somebody out? You know, do you take them or do you call an ambulance? You know, there's a lot of different things like that right there that you got to decide on, and you got to decide fast. And but old Jackson, he was out of work about 12 weeks, and man, when you have a massive heart attack like he did, it really messes you up. Jackson came back to work, and he worked for us till last August, a year ago. And when you have those problems like that, then you have to be on special medicines and different things to, you know, to keep you going. And it's hard to figure out what will jive or jihad with your body. You know, and poor old Jackson, he wanted to work so bad, and he, like I said, he made it to last August, and he just couldn't work no more. And all, but it was heartbreaking. Because him and Kevin had this special bond. I mean, he took care of Kevin on that processor. Oh my goodness, he made sure everything was perfect for Kevin. I mean, just no matter what, he went out of his way for Kevin, and they just. I was sitting here sometimes watching those two work together in just amazement. And you don't find people like that often that click with everybody on the crew and stuff like that. But I hope that this video will help in the event somebody watches this that's working in the woods, maybe they'll put a little bit deeper thought into, what do I do if somebody falls out on me? What do I do in the event that something happens? You know, are you going to make the right decisions? Do you know what to do? What are you going to, let's take it one step further. Say you're the owner of the crew. Say me, for instance. Will Kevin and them know what to do if something happens to me? Will your guys know what to do if something happens to you? Are they going to stand there scratching their head if you talk to them? Have y'all went over a plan? Okay, if I fall out, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Who's going to make the call? If you don't go over that, man, you know, your guys may stand there scratching their head because they may not know what to do. So, I mean, I just run a little bit here and mainly a story, and I hope y'all enjoyed that story, and I hope it helps make you think a little bit about things. But, you know, because of our actions, mine and my brother's and Tommy's actions that day, oh, Supa Jack, that's what we called him, Supa Jack. Supa Jack made it, man. He's still kicking like a chicken too, and still getting around and all that good stuff. He is on disability now because he can't work and all, but just oh, Supa Jack, a heart of gold, man, a heart of gold. But so yeah, I hope y'all have a good day, and you know, please comment, you know, your thoughts or whatever on this. If this has ever happened to you, share it in the comments there for me, and you know, feel free to share this video around too. So y'all be good, y'all have a good day. We'll see y'all later.